Hello, you lovely people. I hope this beautiful Sunday finds you well. Before we dive into today's topic, I just wanted to take a moment to apologize for missing our last video. As some of you may know, I recently started a new job, and apart from that, I was also in Indore for the weekends. On that note, I wanted to take a moment to say a huge thank you to all of you who have reached out and congratulated me on my new job. Your encouragement means world to me, and I'm so grateful to have such an amazing community of people who share my passion for learning and growth. It's been quite a juggling act managing, trying to find balance between work, coaching my clients, and creating the content. But I promise you, I'm doing my best to keep up with everything. And that actually leads me into our today's topic. And today we are going to talk about how to have an equilibrium between your work and your life. I was actually coaching just yesterday with one of my clients that came up, and I'm kind of going to synthesize some of the main points for you here today, because I know that what we talked about absolutely is going to apply basically to everyone who is watching this video. So let's begin. Sunday Reset with Reema, episode 17: How to maintain an equilibrium in your work and your personal life. As we all know, in today's fast-paced society, it can be incredibly challenging to balance the demands of our professional lives with our personal lives. We often find ourselves, caught up in a never-ending cycle of work with little time or no energy left over for the things that truly matter: our health, our relationship, our hobbies, and our passions. It's been something that people have been talking about for a while now, and I think for the beginning of the time, people started talking about it like, oh, that's what we have to do. We just have to figure out a way to find some balance. And then what? A lot of us found moving forward from that is kind of like, yeah, but actually just feel worse about ourselves the more we try to create the work-life balance. The more we feel like we are doing a terrible job at work because we are thinking about our life, our personal stuff when we are at home, and when we are at home or doing our personal stuff, we feel bad because we think we should be at work. In some ways, I think it actually kind of backfired. It sort of made us feel worse about ourselves, put us more into perfectionist kind of state, and just make us feel like no matter what we try, we aren't making the progress that we want to be making, or it's just not the experience that we want to have. And certainly I think the best way to figure out what I prefer instead is to think about work-life equilibrium. And what I mean by that is having your work and your life aligned. To me, the balance word, it brings me to the mind like a seesaw or a teeter-totter, or whatever the other terms are for those, kind of things that in a children's playground, not so often anymore. When we were kids, there were way more of them. But what I'm talking about, right, there's a little fulcrum in the center, equal space on either side, some sort of the board or pull or whatever, maybe there's a seat. So back in the day, right, we just sat on the wood and we were fine, hung on to our dear life. So fun. And if you are trying to create this balance in your mind, all it takes is one teeny little thing to change or be off, and suddenly you're out of balance, right? So to get it to be balanced, in our example, the weight has to be exactly the same. And if there is a little bit, even just a teeny bit more weight on one side, it starts to tip. And then when life does what life does, as something new crops up, now you're out of balance. And so what do? Because the weight has shifted a little bit. When I think about work-life equilibrium, first and foremost, it is essential to recognize that work-life alignment is not about achieving a perfect balance between the two. Rather, it's about, finding a harmony that works for you and your unique circumstances. And I think of it more as sometimes, it does need to move to one direction or the other direction. I think where we really struggle is when we are like, hey, I should be putting 100% of myself into work and 100% of myself into my personal life. And that absolutely doesn't work. The important factor in achieving the work-life equilibrium is learning to manage your energy, not just your time. It's all not too easy to fall into the trap of being constantly on the tip of the toe and burning the candles at both the ends, and then we feel totally burnt out, we feel exhausted. It's just not sustainable. It's something that doesn't work for us, and we know that, we can feel it, and it's just not something that is long-term solution. What I feel like is part of the problem with work-life balance is it's quite rigid. It's like, it needs to be done in a certain way. You need to figure out what balance is for you. It's like you're gonna give more to work, then life is gonna give a little. If you are giving more to life, then work is gonna have to give a little. And that center division between the work and the life can slide back and forth based on what you have going on. And so, for instance, say, God forbid, if someone is having some sort of illness, or maybe your aging parents need your help or something, or just someone in your family had surgery and you need to help them with recovery, and you need to devote more time to life than you can do. But then you have to recognize that something is going to have to give with work. We are going to have to figure something else out there. And similarly, say with work, you are short-staffed, or you have been hearing so much from all of my clients and that I work with, how there's just a lot of hiring going on to fill some particular different positions in the companies, or a resource. While that position is vacant, or maybe multiple positions are vacant, everybody has to step up and do a little more to make sure everything is handled. All the deliverables are handled over for the way they need to be. All the work that needs to get done gets done. And so maybe that bar in the center has to slide over a little to accommodate for work, requiring a little bit more of you in this time. But that to me feels like something that's more flexible and doable, because things we just don't know, like say you get pregnant and you were like, my last pregnancy was fine, and now this one you have fibromesis, right? So you're probably not going to be able to function in your work life the way that you were before. You might not even be able to function in your home life the way you were before. So you are going to have to create some flexibility in there. One thing that I think is really important is making sure that the way we think about the work should not be super rigid, that this work can only and only be done by me and no one else. Even with regards to your personal life, some people think that only if you clean the house then it's clean, or only if you look after your baby with utmost care and attention then you're okay with that. This rigid thinking, this was one thinking that was coaching somebody on yesterday, and this lovely amazing woman who is a corporate employee, a software engineer too, is super committed to her work, super committed to all the different aspects of her work. I'm gonna keep it really vague, to protect her privacy, but very, very committed. And on the flip side of that, she also has a family life, and some demands and requirements are there she wants to spend time on. But if we are really being honest, she wants to spend more time on her work. In her spending more time on her work, she has developed a bit of rigid way of thinking that makes her think that the only way for her to get all her work done is for her to spend as much time at work and as she is, which the other people in her life who are important to her would like her to do less of her work. They would like her to be more available at home, basically show up more and be more present in the home life. Because of this rigid way of thinking about work, she is not able to see that there are other options in maybe getting all the work done that needs to be done, but over a shorter period of time. And I think we all fall into this in some way, shape or form somewhere along the line, where we look at, whatever the thing is, the task or the involvement or whatever it is that we are up against, we tell ourselves the story that it has to be done this way. You are the one who has to do all these things, and there's just really no other way. In this case of this client, if she leaves early, then the work just won't get done, and it will just pile up and pile up and pile up, and some more, only making it harder for her later. So what she thinks when she's telling me that, that she's just telling me the truth, and it is the truth of what her experience has been so far as a result of the way she has been thinking about it. She thinks she's the only one who can get this stuff done. It takes a certain amount of time if she leaves early, but work's gonna build up somewhere along the line, because it has been her experience that had been true for her. But what's been really interesting is seeing what happens when I offer a different way of thinking. I mean, over the years, I have talked to so many of my different colleagues who are, but we often have a lot of rigid thinking, is in thinking that only way for things to be done the way we want to be done. If so, we do them, and this is an area where I think there's a lot of room to explore it. May not be always be the right answer for everybody, but it's certainly worthwhile to spend some time considering. So if you are recognizing that just the sheer volume of charting that needs to be done, even when you are efficient, is more than what you would like to be spending on it, then we can get creative. There are definitely people who have hired their own assistant, and that has helped them so much. But I have also heard from a lot of doctors, say for instance, who say, well, what, I would love to have an assistant, but I really would, but my organization won't pay for it. And so they think that's like full stop, the end, and no more room for discussion. And it may still not be the right thing, but I still think it's worthwhile to actually crunch the numbers and consider how much would it cost for you to hire your own assistant. What more could you get done? What would that do for your productivity? What would it look like in terms of your compensation? And also, would you be willing to take maybe a small hit to your compensation in order to not spend so much time doing this charting paperwork that you don't really want to be doing, and you get to leave on time every day? Like that could be worthwhile investment in yourself and in your enjoyment of your work. And the same goes in the corporate sector as well. Instead of manually doing the same stuff again and again, try to identify the areas which can be automated that makes life easier. So we just want to get really creative. We want to open up our minds. Maybe we do some work that really the residents can do just fine, but we have convinced ourselves that we should really just do it. Or what, honestly, there's an administrative assistant who could do some of this stuff, but we have just sort of felt bad asking someone to help us. So I mean, these kind of things come up again and again, but the only way we can even see that as a possibility is for us to open up to the idea that it is definitely possible for us to leave on time, and the work is done every day to the level that we expect. Like whatever our level of work productivity is that we expect, that is done. The other area that we have to look at is, sometimes we tell ourselves, if we have to do all this work, we have to be there longer. We have to help with all these things, take on all these additional commitments, because deep down, maybe subconsciously, we don't really like the feel like to be in our personal lives. And I see this time and again, particularly with people who have really young kids. They have babies, toddlers, just that season of life, that is a lot, and not everybody feels that way. There are plenty of people who love that time or maybe love parts of it, but have done other episodes in talking about being okay that things feel hard. What we have to do is we have to honor that we are not always going to love every season of life that we are in, but let's just call it what it is. Let's just recognize what personal life doesn't feel super great right now, and that's why I'm spending more time at work. Not because I can't figure out work-life balance, not because my work is difficult. It involves so much and they really need me, and working at the expense of your personal life, your relationships, and all other things we have going on. Just recognizing I don't love that right now. Maybe some coaching would make it more tolerable. In fact, I'm confident it would. But just recognizing the reason why I want to work so much is because home doesn't feel so fun right now. Or maybe you get home and you're like I have been saying I want to be dating, but I am not doing it, and so then otherwise I'm sitting home by myself, and then I don't feel good about myself, so I would rather just be around people and be at work. Okay, let's just be honest about that. But then we can't tell ourselves what, I'm just so busy at work, I don't have time to date. Actually not true, and it's holding you back from the long-term results, the long-term outcome that you're really desiring. So ultimately, wrapping this all up, work-life equilibrium is something that works with you. It's more of being flexible and the way you're going to that you are in alignment because of how you are going to feel. If you're constantly feeling like you're doing a bad job in one area of your life, I would argue that you are out of alignment. I mean, in some way, shape or form are not matching up the way they are supposed to be. You are trying to overlap two areas instead of finding what works right now. But we don't want to find ourselves doing is ignoring the issues that we have for so long, that there ends up being something that's irreversible, such as a partner deciding what, like, I'm really tired of coming in second always, no matter what's going on at home, so I don't think I want you be in this partnership anymore, or whatever is other relationships that are falling apart because we are prioritizing our work. So we just have to understand, we will tell ourselves these stories about how great work is, and it's really meaningful, and what we do is important, and it is yes to all of that, and that's not going to be there with you. Your work is not going to pick up from having your procedure, or pick you up from the airport, or be there for you when you're 75, right? Your personal relationships are very important. There's so much data on how important that is to people's well-being and happiness. So if you really have to think, am I working on the alignment, even if working on those relationships right now is really hard and uncomfortable, right? It's not always going to be super fun in both the areas, but we can find a way so that it feels like it's aligned. And that's what I want to challenge you to do this week, is to think about your work, your personal life, and they are aligned. If they don't feel aligned, then where is the issue? Where is there some area to think about, to contemplate, to maybe get coached on, so that you can get a place where you are like, what, I keep myself in alignment no matter what's going on in both the areas of life. All right, and I wish you a very happy Sunday, sending you love. I love you, and you are all very lovable. I'm so glad that you all are here. Thanks for your attention, and I hope you have a great rest of your Sunday, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.